Here's what's coming up in episode 140. Lacey Reinhardt.
It's a personal exploration, and we don't have to prove anything to anyone but ourselves, because ultimately I want to know when I die, how close was I? Was I in the right ballpark? And the people that really do have controlled experiments going on, those are your universities with real teams of people that time is money and there's a grant in question there. It's not the hobby weekenders that want to have a Facebook page and be cool in their black t-shirt. Those aren't the people really contributing anything. And that's the truth about it. So let's be honest. Some people live in a gray area where they will allow people to think that they've experienced paranormal activity. For example, the big commercial ghost hunts where everyone brings a K2 meter because it's cheap and easy and everybody's got one. But the people hosting the event don't tell people to turn their phones onto airplane mode.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to the Big Seance Podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the seance.
I am so excited for you to hear my conversation with owner and operator of Haunted STL Tours and the host of the American Spirits podcast, Lacey Reinhardt. I wanted to make sure you knew that this conversation happened about a month ago, and at the time of me releasing this, the details of her podcast have since changed. So be sure to stick around after the interview because I'll give you some updates on her show and some other things going on with Lacey and Haunted STL Tours. If you want to check out the site while you're listening, visit hauntedSTLTours.com. Pour your tea. Hi, Lacey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fabulous. We're going to pretend like we didn't just talk for, 25 minutes before we decided, hey, why don't we go ahead and hit record and do this?
It's seamless.
You are so easy to talk to.
Well, thanks.
Lacey is also the host of the American Spirits podcast. She has family roots that run deep in St. Louis. She's passionate about historical preservation, as well as finding the facts behind urban legends. Lacey has been exploring forgotten and haunted locations since childhood. A self-described Marilyn Munster, Lacey attributes her passion for local history, as well as her interest in the paranormal, to her father, a collector of odd and unusual books and antiques. And if you go to hauntedSTLTours.com, you'll see some of the things that they offer are haunted history tours, like I'll just point some out: Lemp Mansion and Haunted Laclede's Landing, which is the St. Louis Arch area, Old St. Louis Courthouse, cemetery tours. We've talked about the Bellefontaine Cemetery, which is a favorite place of both of ours.
Indeed.
But they have a Spirits of St. Louis Cemetery tour. They do paranormal investigations, and there's so many offered. I don't even know where to start, so I'm just not even going to mention any right now. They offer metaphysical supplies and tarot card readings. I met Lacey at Troy Taylor's Dead of Winter conference in Alton several weeks ago, and we both had tables, and we were right next to each other. And the conversation we had was, I told her it was so stimulating that I had to ask her if we could set up a time and do a full interview and recreate it and discuss it even further. She's so easy to talk to. She is so fluent in everything in this paranormal world. And I really liked the way she thought and some of the points that she made. And so I am so excited to talk with her. So again, welcome, Lacey, and thanks for coming here to the Parlor.
Thank you. That's quite a buildup there. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. My listeners will be upset with me if I don't offer you a drink. We offer, a pretend virtual drink in our parlor, but you kind of already have one. So tell us what you're drinking.
I don't drink off. Well, that's not true. I was going to say I don't drink often, but I do now more than ever. I'm a Prosecco fan.
Okay.
It's champagne, but it's not, Dom. It's the Italian, and I like a little more dry than sweet. So I like bubbles. I think they go with everything.
That's awesome. I love that. I don't have any bubbles. I just have iced tea. That's what I have this evening.
That's not nearly as fancy.
Not as cool.
But you have a parlor.
I do have a parlor.
And I do not have a parlor.
So some of the things that we talked about from my perspective, and then I also contacted Lacey and was like, can you remind me of exactly what we talked about? Which is kind of a dorky question to ask. But Lacey has a veterinary medicine background. And I'm going to ask her a question about that in a second, of something that's really cool. And she also says she works with witches, which is interesting.
It is.
Some of the frustrations that we both have with like haunted tourism was one of the things that I remember that stood out. And things like, paid ghost hunts and the whole grab your meter and yay, I'm a ghost hunter, and and ethics in the paranormal and respect for the dead. And so I kind of just want to run down those things, and then any tangents that we fly down are totally cool. So tell us about your veterinary medicine background. And you said that working with service animals helped you realize the power of nonverbal communication. And this was so very interesting. So recreate that for us.
Yeah. So I spent the better part of 20 years working first hands-on with animals. I went to veterinary technician school, trade school, basically. And I turned a, very hands-on, physically challenging job into a 20-year career. And I've learned that there's a lot of money being spent on programs that strengthen the human-animal bond. And a lot of those programs are around emotional support dogs and things like that. And I've known people personally that have PTSD support dogs or, seizure support dogs that will alert them before they have a seizure. So if we know that animals can sense these things and that they can definitely bond with their people, and communication can occur without words, being spoken specifically, why can't some people also have certain abilities to detect certain things? That doesn't necessarily mean it's magic. It could still be science, just something that we don't fully wrap our heads around at the moment, but can theorize about. I know someone who can smell decomposition, and that allows this person to smell cemeteries. And so in the paranormal world, that's a really cool gift to have. And some might say that's a psychic ability. What I believe that is a permutation of olfactory cells that allows this ability. That's a theory. I've not tested it, but you can be smart about spirituality and not be crazy. Even sometimes when we're talking about things we can't see. Can't see gravity, but we know it exists. Mm-hmm. I've always had a curiosity. I grew up watching the Cosmos and the Addams Family and such things. My dad was a character. He was a TV wrestler for a while, and bikery and dark, and some would say, kind of goth with his taste. There was a cardboard cutout of Elvira on the pass-through door from the bedroom to the kitchen that I remember vividly. A skull on top of the clock on the mantle, and that was Dad's place, and it was great. So I didn't realize how different that was, or how eccentric Dad was, until, later on, when I realized not everybody's dad is like mine. So I have an appreciation for different. He's a collector of antiques and just weird things that you might walk past frequently and not really notice. So I've learned to catch things maybe that other people don't, or that they walk past and don't notice the details of, or the layers of history that's around where we live. And St. Louis is a very old city. And I couldn't make a career out of exploring old buildings. So, I had to make a job out of something, and animal welfare, animal medicine seemed like a natural fit. And I was passionate about it. And after 20 years, I went from not being a people person to helping veterinarians communicate better with their teams and staff to make more money ultimately. But really it was, again, nonverbal communication and how to teach people, how to meet people halfway where they are. So that's the animal field that gave me a curiosity for the paranormal, but the paranormal interest and passion has always been there to an extent. I grew up on the old horror movies, all the Universal monster movies, urban legends, just creepy everything. And don't look like Wednesday Addams, but I feel like that a lot. But, we also have to adapt and adjust to other things. And I can't be taken seriously sometimes if I, look like my inner goth kid.
Before we started recording, we actually kind of talked about, paranormal, I guess, stereotypes or norms and kind of the mold that we do or do not fit in. And I don't think that you or I, either of us, really fit into this, paranormal. If you think about paranormal investigating, paranormal people, or there's the more spiritual side, of paranormal people. And I think that's interesting. Yeah, you are your own mold.
I have to be, because what I thought I was going to do when I decided to quit my day job to do this full time is vastly different from where I am now. I wouldn't change anything except for maybe the income, but once you open yourself up to different perspectives and you really do want to know, it will dump in your lap. I'm amazed at the group of people that I've collected. And I don't mean to say, I got to find a better way to phrase that because it sounds like I'm a soul collector. Sounds super creepy. But the friends that I have gathered and acquaintances along the way, just being honest and saying, I'm passionate about this and I'm going to want to talk about it. Can you help me find a better way to articulate something that you know more about than I do? And whatever that happens to be, whether it's the witches that I work with and dealing with, unhappy spirits, entities that I don't have a whole lot of experience with, or paranormal investigators that have been using pseudoscientific methods for a decade that know way more than I do. I've always just been sort of the center point with questions that can articulate for one group to the next sometimes and keep them all together when everybody brings something different to the table. But yeah, to your point, the only thing that makes me look like any other paranormal group is I'm white and I own a black t-shirt. I look like all the other paranormal investigators. There's nothing, this is not a program that you get a degree in necessarily. So it's people that can take it as seriously as they want and really try to contribute something to the scientific community through this, which I would love to get to that point. I think I'm kind of close to being able to do something like that, but also balance it with, this is supposed to be fun. And, nobody wants to be strapped to a computer watching 19 straight hours of footage, hoping you catch an orb. Like, there's a sucky side to this work too. So
there's a burnout that comes with that. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't stick with the work that I was doing, because also I'm kind of, I was the one that was most serious about it. And my team was my family, and they knew that I was kind of the nerd with it. And so I took all of that on myself. And so I'm, looking at video and audio all night long, every night after school. And it would take me 2 months to really come down with like a final report and all those things. And I loved it and it was interesting, but I was like, and at the end, when you sometimes come out with nothing after 2 months of whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure this gave somebody some validation, but that was a lot of stress and time.
Right.
And so I just got really burned out,
And I've decided, I can say I decided a while back, because I do have people that will do that when it is needed. So somebody does have to do that somewhere. But I decided that can't be my life with this. And that even if I did invest that amount of time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears into pouring over finding just the perfect EVP to prove to the world that that was a real, genuine paranormal experience, there will still be a bazillion people out there that can debunk it in some way. Mm-hmm. And it's not worth it to me. I'm not getting paid for this. I mean, it's not, if I was making $1 million giving the world the best EVPs they'd ever have, it'd be worth it. Mm-hmm. Heck, I would do that for minimum wage, to be honest with you, but that's not how it works. And you have had an experience when you have had an experience. If you can contribute to your story with evidence of a photo or, something else that is semi-tangible, at least that people can wrap their brains around, then that helps your case. But ultimately, it was a personal exploration that brought me here, not proving anything to anybody. I was the person that needed everybody else to prove the thing too. Oh. And I'm realizing that a lot of time and energy is spent doing that when it's never going to matter. Now, that being said, I'm not saying it should be a free-for-all and people should be putting out photoshopped and, infrared this and that and filtered. Stop that too. Stop muddying the waters with that. But yeah, I have seen my own team burn out and get testy with, I'm the one that does all this. And, you might get a great 10-second clip and that's the gold nugget after panning for days. But yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I really do think that the real scientific teams that go out and they set up controlled environments, and we attempt this in vain, because ultimately, and it sounds like you are much like me, you're analytic enough that when there's a margin of error that you can't turn a blind eye to, and it sort of invalidates what you're doing at that point, that can make you insane.
Yes.
And yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And I appreciate the people that do dedicate the time to do that, and the people that really do have controlled experiments going on. Those are your universities with real teams of people that time is money, and there's a grant in question there. It's not the hobby weekenders that want to have a Facebook page and be cool in their black t-shirts. Those aren't the people really contributing anything. And that's the truth about it. So let's be honest.
I have always had conflicting thoughts with it all, because I hate, and we've kind of been talking about this, I hate the stereotype of the redneck wearing the black t-shirt, go out, get in your truck and go out and I'm going to give you my professional advice and I'm a ghost hunter, yet I've never read a book about the topic. Right. And my training is a show. But at the same time, my listeners, many of them have probably seen the group photo of my paranormal team where we're in a cornfield with our black shirts on, so like I have been there, but at the same time, I was reading constantly about it, and I was constantly researching and looking out there to see what was happening and documenting.
We should be the friend. I know maybe you're going to come on an investigation with my team just to get the t-shirt, and we're going to go like magenta.
Bring it.
We're going to rebel and be like, you know what? Ghosts don't care what color shirt you're wearing. Let's prove that too.
Well, but then I also I was so serious about it, and I can get serious about things that are my passions and get stressed out about it. And you talked about going crazy. I eventually stopped, and I started doing some EVP research outside of paranormal investigation. And I finally had to kind of let loose a little bit. And I never, ever declared anything an EVP. I just refused to do that. Because I knew so many people who sent me EVP things, and I had some collaborators of some research that we were doing, and they would send this. And of course they're like, oh yeah, it's a class A, even though they're the ones who decided it was class A. and I'm like, sounds very much like, this moving across the table or a breath or whatever. And so I knew that people were doing that with mine. And I even I would one day say, this is a EVP saying, can you help me? And the next day I'd hear something else. And so I went to the point of only calling things artifacts, interesting artifacts.
Yeah.
Things that I wanted to point out. And as soon as I let go of having to declare things paranormal or not, and just realize that my best strength was going to be to just point things out, listen, watch, document, point interesting things out, because everybody's going to, like you said, nobody has a degree. There's always somebody smarter than you or has some more experience than you. And it's just going to be there. So I have pages and pages and pages of all these documents and timestamps and data. And, nobody's looking at it, but you never know. 100 years, somebody might pull that out and say, look what happened here. And this is what he documented. And
your documents may be the cuneiform tablets of the future.
I'm just going to keep telling myself that.
You never know. That's what keeps me alive too.
And I just talked too much on your interview.
It's easy to get passionate about this because you can make it your own and do something completely different. You don't. We could. And then we end up not, because it's hard. It's hard to really so I was an actual paid animal cruelty investigator.
Oh, gosh.
For the Humane Society for a number of years. And we actually had to present cases to the prosecuting attorney's office, and they would decide whether or not to, proceed. So to me, presenting a case, I was collecting evidence whether or not it was admissible or not. It was still evidence. What your smoking gun is or isn't really doesn't matter. It's here's what we found. It's interesting. I think it's relevant. You tell me what you think. Verdict is out. Cool. Talk amongst yourselves.
My job is done.
Yeah, because the minute I say, this is what this is, it just takes 12 more people behind a keyboard to say, nah, here's what it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If I can present a compelling enough argument, and you are welcome to go experience yourself. Typically, these locations we all get in are many of them are public. It's a personal exploration. And we don't have to prove anything to anyone but ourselves, because ultimately, I want to know when I die, how close was I? Was I in the right ballpark? And did I have enough sense to think about, I don't know, how do you say this, planting the seeds for that next thing? Did I do right by that next phase, whatever that is? That's really all it is to me. And I think not caring what anybody thinks, to a degree, not to be disrespectful, opinions are always welcome. I learn things constantly from people. So it's not that. It's just, you could pick apart how I do anything. I don't care. We get some really cool things, and we've earned trust from people, which that validates enough for me. And we've had enough moving experiences that's been great. I've made enough friends doing this that would stop what they're doing and come investigate a place with me if I present evidence to them because they believe me. So that's what matters. It's not a cool kids contest, or it's like the nerdy kids that are trying to be the cool kids.
Yeah.
Found this niche because you can decide how much marketing you put into what you're doing, and that decides how right you are. That's really not it at all. So that's not how we roll at Haunted STL, and that's not what I think about it as an individual. And I think just letting the ego go out of it is what has made us successful. It's still stressful. We still balance all these things. It's not Shangri-La, don't get me wrong. It's why I'm drinking champagne right now. I deserve this drink. I worked really hard and long today for what seems like very little reward, perhaps. But it's worth it to me when people who aren't in it for money, because there isn't any here in this field, people who aren't in it for money, who just are like-minded and really think you're doing a cool thing. And it's edutainment. I've heard that word used lately, and I'm cool with that. I feel good about that.
I guess I could be edutainment a little bit.
You totally are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Never really heard of that. That's cool.
We're just the broker. We're like paranormal information brokers. Like, we don't have to be the license holders necessarily. We just have to know the people we just need to know where to point people and get the answers. We can get the answers. That's what I'm all about. That's why we've got all these different people taking notice in what we're doing, and all these crazy opportunities keep creeping up, and it's a mixed bag on some of this. It's a blessing and a curse. Things are coming out of nowhere and everywhere all at once because there weren't really expectations. The more I ask, the more I realize I don't know. So I find myself taking more of a backseat and showcasing experts in whatever field of interest I need to know more about because of a particular investigation. Because again, not all investigations are cookie cutter either. St. Louis, where I live, is such a neighborhood specific, identifiable place to live that the way we do an investigation with a spirit in one part of town is completely different than how we would do it on the other side. So this is complicated.
And I don't think we've mentioned it yet. This new journey of yours that has exploded is fairly recent. Like, how new is this for you?
I would say that I have pursued this paranormal world in whatever entity for maybe 2 years now, like full time. Let's go. This is a cool thing. I can do this. This is worth quitting my day job for. It's been 2 years, but as my own self, I've gone through 2 business partners. That's the other rough side of it, is you do have to pay bills, and running a business based on what you could easily take advantage of, which is trust. A lot of people don't balance that well. And a lot of people can't handle the amount of effort for the very little reward. This is like a pomegranate. It's a lot of work to get to the good part. And you wonder if it's worth it, cracking whole nuts. So like, I don't know if it's worth it for all that. Like, just, I want to buy the bag. So, but it is for me. And, since I opened my little shop as its own experiment, on North 4th Street in downtown St. Louis, where traffic is difficult and some people are terrified of what they think is World War Z on a daily, and it so isn't. It's fine. My 12-year-old helps me out at the shop and loves to hang out. We've only been open, since Friday the 13th of 2018. So we've not been there for a full year. But just in that time, I've grown this amazing network of people, and almost out of nowhere, everything's 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon and Lacey Reinhardt in St. Louis. One of my paranormal investigators knows another well-known media personality in St. Louis who happens to be a very right-wing conservative political commentator. And his name is Jamie. And a lot of people know who he is. And I was given an opportunity to get in ground level on an experimental project of his own with this live stream and podcast that we're doing. And never in a million years did I think I would have that, not even a full year in. So there's some amazing exposure, but the exposure is tricky because it's to a group of people that typically you don't consider your conservative, average Joe to really want to hear about what witches are doing. Like, that can be scary for some people, but I'm also not insulting the conservatives. For a long time, I would think I was more right to center on a lot of things. Not everything, some things. Again, I'm not, the book inside is not what the cover projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding this out with every important instrumental person in this journey. It's the same situation. This may be the lesson here to learn, but my right-wing commentator is not, straight ticket in every ideology. Like, it doesn't work that way. He's an individual. My significant other is on the opposite side of the political spectrum and is a politician holding office that, is very different groups of people. Typically, these two would not be in the same room together, but they do get along.
It's an interesting place for you to sit in the middle of that too.
Yeah. And I'm working in the occult.
Yeah.
In the middle. And and part of my team as a whole actually reflects that balance and that challenge, because I've got, some of my investigators, I guarantee you Dane's got a Make America Great Again hat. And I guarantee you, two of my witches could shoot laser beams at that thing from across an astral plane. But when everybody's in the same room together for whatever the reason, we're fine. We can be respectful people. Like, it's not a melee and chaos, because that's not really how life is either, even though mainstream everything wants you to think that we're all fighting each other. It's not really like that on a day-to-day. We have bills to pay and other things to deal with. So yeah, everything about this it doesn't make sense. And that's what's getting attention, I think, but it's working. So,
and it's weird because, and this is kind of sort of a tangent.
Oh, let's do it.
But I mean, you were talking about the opposites kind of getting along. But most of us probably, if you have a job where you work with others, we work with the mix of both. Absolutely. I present myself as one way, probably on social media. I roll. And, when I go to work, I work with lovely people who I know are on the opposite side of me politically. And you have to make it work, number one, but then you also somehow learn to do it there. So
yeah, we do live in a society, for better or worse, and we have to have our dailies met. So, I mean, if we're killing each other and we create more tension than there needs to be, sometimes that's an issue. And sometimes the conspiracy theorist in me wants to come out and say that's intentional. But then I'm dating a politician. I'm like, well, he's clearly not like that. He doesn't even have time to be that evil mastermind to plot thing. I don't know. I just. Oh,
so you're one of those too.
Sometimes. I didn't used to be. I was like, oh God, these tinfoil hat people. Oh my God, come on. Well, and I do still think there is a subset of tinfoil hat people that go a little too far with some of this stuff. But I mean, yeah, if I don't give you the explanation for why I believe in ancient aliens, if I just say that, I'm dismissed by a lot of people already. But if you would allow me to explain that for just a few minutes, I draw parallels with paranormal activity that, theoretical physicists draw with quantum entanglement. And so it is the same conversation. So what I do is presented very differently depending upon who is asking and how seriously I want to be taken.
Right.
So I get it. Yeah. But it doesn't mean I'm less me. It just means that I can meet you halfway. I'm not selling out to you or anything. It's just I have to get along with you, and I probably have to shop at the same store. And it just, my total philosophy, and you may bleep this, but my whole philosophy is just don't be poopy. Don't be a dirtbag. Just be cool. Yeah. Okay. If you can sleep at night and you think about how you treated people and you don't feel icky, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good thing for us to all live by.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
So I want to ask you a question that if someone asked me, I would be totally overwhelmed, but I know that you can handle this question. So you guys have the haunted tours and the group paranormal investigations and so many cool things like that. What are, in general, in this, paranormal tourism world, what are some of the things that bug you about that, and why do you guys do it better?
The things that bug me about it are a lot of behind the scenes. It's presentation versus reality, and that infiltrates every layer of paranormal tourism or dark tourism. Some people, I mean, just like the veterinary industry that I was in before, you've got chop shops, a $20 spay or neuter is not a good spay or neuter. Ugh. You do not want that for your pet. Spend the money. Get the pain meds, guys. It's like, getting plastic surgery in Brazil or wherever people go where, sometimes you die. There is a lack of ethics because sometimes it's just downright intentional. People don't care. It doesn't have to be haunted. I just have to sell it as haunted. I actually had an ex-business partner say that to me, and that makes me ill. But unfortunately, that's actually not that out of the question. Some people live in a gray area where They will allow people to think that they've experienced paranormal activity. For example, the big commercial ghost hunts where everyone brings a K2 meter because it's cheap and easy and everybody's got one. But the people hosting the event don't tell people to turn their phones onto airplane mode.
Right.
If you don't tell them to turn their phones onto airplane mode, which they should know this, it's not, again, me being one saying I'm probably the least experienced can tell you don't get in the business if you don't even know that part, that a cell phone will ping a tower potentially, and then these meters light up, and then people think that, oh my God, I'm experiencing something, and those people are going to sit back and let you think that that's the case because now you will come back and spend more money again. And they won't be honest about whether they know what they're looking at or not. Orbs. I hate orbs. I don't know what I'm looking at with an orb. You were there. You tell me what you think you got. I don't know. Unless we could blow it up and like dissect it from something other than your iPhone, I really don't know. Again, that being said, there are some that you couldn't really think it's really anything else. This person's not a photographer. There's no filter. There's no motive that you can see. I mean, you can debunk anybody at any time, or you can make common sense summarizations on, a person's mental health status. Are they snapping at flies that aren't there while they're showing you their evidence? Or, do they seem like reasonable people? There's context to some of these things. So that's one of the things that bugs me is just this. There's a lack of ethics, but there's also a lack of standardization for something that you can't prove anyway, So it's the Wild West in the field. Even the spiritualist movement, post-Civil War, during Civil War, you had all these people who were so desperate to connect to their loved ones. Mothers, widows that lost many men or all the men in their family. That's trauma. And some people are desperate to connect with someone or feel special or have an experience, and to take advantage of that and not know what that person's motivation is or why they're there. That can't be good. That just can't be good. But I also don't see anything wrong with my witches charging for tarot readings. They're giving you more. I believe them. To me, and I mean, they can give you their resumes, they're 20-year practicing in their craft. Again, anyone can debunk and roll their eyes, but they're giving you a service. They're interpreting something. You're tossing the dice whether you believe it or not. They're not trying to convince you to do anything. You donate for a service that, you're tipping like you tip your nail person for any service, a great massage. Whatever you got out of it, cool. I'm not going to try to convince you they're the real deal versus this one over here. I don't know. I know that people can do micro expression readings. I can do that to some extent just from police and law enforcement training doing cruelty investigations. I can read BS. My BS detector's on point, but I wouldn't say I'm psychic. People can read body language and do cold readings and pick up on your tells, just like professional poker cheats can. But there are also people who spend just as much effort exploring that path and being mentored and taking it seriously that can develop these abilities that I do believe. So I don't know. Trust your gut on that. TV has to sell TV. I'm saying this to you while there are multiple cable networks talking about me right now. It could go to great places or it may go nowhere. But I have a level of ethics that I know I can't cross a certain boundary with, or I will feel like I am selling out. Everybody's got a different level of what that is for them, Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's a lot that bugs me, but there's a lot that you can't blame people for if you really are analytical, like I think we are. You kind of can't blame people for just wanting to be cool. It's kind of a rock star thing. You can throw out some pretty cool terminology and everybody wants to be special. So you can be a leader and all you need is a following. So it's, you've got all levels here, just like you do Trekkies.
Yeah.
Some you wouldn't know are Trekkies, and some you can spot them a mile away like, you're a Trekkie. I don't judge as harshly as I did in the beginning. I really felt that the demographic of people that believed in some of this over the top sensationalized stuff, I thought, you're a sucker,
Mm-hmm.
but people also follow different spiritual paths out of faith because they really need to believe that as well. So I don't judge. I just observe on this and articulate what my thoughts are on it. But I try not to be a jerk about it. And I just know that there are some dirtbags out there that, people will flock to anything that's haunted sometimes. I like a more discerning crowd. I like a little bit more of a challenge.
I stopped judging after I changed my mind on things like 10 times. It's like, okay, I'm going to stop judging people because I'm going to start looking like a dork.
Or I've been that person that maybe I rolled my eyes at before. This whole being attacked by a spirit, I've seen it on the shows.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how many people tell me about times that they were attacked by a spirit. And I'm like, you are up there with the people who have been probed on the mothership. I have a real hard time with that one, that something attacked you. I also still have a hard time with seeing an object fly across a room. I've yet to see it. Haven't seen a candlestick fly across the mantle. I've yet to see a damn thing levitate. Like, I don't get to see that cool stuff. But I have had paranormal experiences that without a doubt, I was there. I saw them. I know that they happened. But yeah, the spirit attack thing, I finally had a scary experience. And I'm like, how do I even articulate this? I sound crazy. I'm going to wait on that. I got to find the right words. Lest I be the pot that called the kettle black,
So let's say you're going into a home, maybe a family home, and this is a situation where a request has been filed for you to come in and help. And I know from talking to you just a little bit, several weeks ago, that you have a really strong opinion about how you go about reaching out to communicate to, the other side or what may or may not be there. What's your style with that?
It's more what I don't do. I think there are so many methods and approaches that spirits, I think to this point, my opinion thus far, the conclusion is that spirits are just as individual as we are now, the tangible us. I think there's a level of consciousness, even if it's not as developed as what it is in this vessel that we know to be our human bodies. I think that whatever these entities are, they are still individuals, and different stimuli provokes different emotional responses. And music, for some, that's their passion. For you, for example, I would imagine you're pretty passionate about some musical pieces, and certain things will, evoke emotional responses. To this day, I can't hear Sarah McLachlan music because of the stupid ASPCA commercials. I didn't like her to begin with, but I don't like her specifically now. I get sad. It's like the Pavlovian thing. But I promise you, when I die, if I'm around in any way, shape, or form, if someone is cranking dance music, I am booty shaking in the afterlife. Like, that will get me. So we approach things all different manner of ways, whatever we think will elicit a response, but it's crossing the line into disrespect that we don't do. We try to have empathy for ghosts as if they were living people now. And even within the last few weeks, my perspective on the signalment, if you will, or specific properties of an entity, what they believe, like, are you still white? Like, if you're Caucasian in life, are you still Caucasian in death? Do you still have the same prejudices that you would, or phobias or fears? Or is that gone now? I thought I was pretty narrow-minded in how I was thinking about that. Is no, if you're talking to a Native American spirit, you approach them as though whatever would be the most respectful way to approach that tribe. A differing opinion that really made me think about this differently just in the last week actually was from a woman who is clairvoyant, and I also very much believe has some real gift here. In a very calm way, kind of giggled at the effort that I put into diversifying my team so that our approach is culturally sensitive, because in her opinion, once you are no longer in the vessel, the lesson is different for the next life, if you believe in that kind of thing. And the color of the skin or the signalment no longer is as important. Even the gender perhaps may not be important. So in her mind, there's that. So I bring that back to the person that really pumped me up with being diverse with your approach is a good idea. And then that perspective changed again to, well, you do it more for the people that are there observing, because if, the descendants of this Native American tribe are there and you're approaching this entity, you're doing it more for the living than for the dead to show respect. And I'm like, well, that's a great answer too. Equally as valuable, but maybe not why I thought I should do it in the first place. This is what this is like. And if you do this full time, you can't possibly be cocky enough to stand by concretely any one narrow way of thinking about anything for too long. So when people get to circle back to the other question, what are one of my peeves or irritants in this field? It's people that will put out a body of work, whether it's a book or a video or whatever presentation, and then they get all upset when challenging information comes out or a new thought process or new evidence comes out. It doesn't invalidate what you did. You put out what was relevant at the time. Keep it. It's still valuable. Don't destroy it. This just offers new insight. It happens all the time. I work as a volunteer archivist, extremely part-time now. I wish I could do it more often, but all these other things are happening at Bellefontaine Cemetery or Bellefontaine, depending on who you want to pronounce it. But working in the archives, they find things all the time that offer a different perspective or different context to something that has been repeated over and over and over again a million times and is thought to be just the way. Pyramids are not tombs for the pharaohs, which is what people that look like us have thought for a really long time now. Now we know that's just not the case, and that there are actually pyramids in Bosnia, in Illinois, that the Cahokia Mounds are actually pyramids, that they're actually a worldwide thing, and they're a little more complicated than we originally thought. And that's a really uncomfortable, embedded thought process to change.
See, now I feel dumb. I was ignorant of that.
Honestly, I was too until not that long ago. But it was someone who is an esoteric astrologer and thinker in many ways that brought that up, because I talk about paranormal activity being more prevalent where you've got multiple variables that contribute to the probability of that. Coming from science world, think about the elements that make up a battery, and you've probably gone through the paranormal battery talk a million times, but potato clocks work, potato lights work, and the potato isn't magic, but you'd be burned at the stake for that witchcraft in the 1500s. It is science. It just looks different and it looks funny. So we are weird about things that we don't quite understand, and we feel funny talking about them. I also felt funny talking to thin air or doing spirit communication a couple years ago. And I feel less strange now saying I believe in ancient aliens and that the pyramids are giant battery generators, energy generators for the Anunnaki than I do, some of this other stuff. And it's just one damn door leads to another. And if you're smart, before you get too old to process any of this, you keep going. So you can't have an ego. I'm bringing people with me. I'm not in a box where I'm like, and this is what you can expect today. I don't know where the conversation's going to go sometimes. But isn't that what we're all into this for? And yet we're all following these templates to try to be cooler than the next kid or come up with the new, the better mousetrap, when maybe it's not the mice we should be catching. So I don't know. I don't. Maybe I drink too much champagne. Maybe it's the fact that I'm not cool enough for the scientific community that does this long term or has been doing it long term. But I'm also not. I'm too smart for the snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm already planning on doing this again a year ago. I just went back into time.
Like, we just went and experienced a wormhole as we speak on your show.
I can't wait to contact you a year from now to see how things have changed, even just in a year.
Please contact me a year from now. I might need your help a year from now. I might be blinking once for yes and twice for no a year from now. I don't know.
Rocking in the corner somewhere, overwhelmed.
Or, you may be contacting me via some other plane. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I if you really are open-minded and not afraid, and sometimes that's a lot of inner work that we need to do. For example, and here we go down another rabbit hole, 23andMe. Ideas and heritage that so many people held on to and were so proud of for so long is suddenly completely turned upside down if you do one of these 23andMe's, and maybe you weren't of Hispanic heritage, maybe you were of, I don't know, Alaskan Inuit heritage. Maybe some similar characteristics, so maybe you didn't know, and this blows your mind. And so now, the enchilada recipe that your great grandmother taught you, you hate it, and it's not, it doesn't matter, it's all in vain, but it isn't. You still are part of that culture. You still have the knowledge. Maybe you don't have the DNA, but it doesn't mean the heritage isn't there. I don't look a single iota Native American. I have blue eyes. Nothing about me says Native American. But my mother looks like her father, who looks very Native American, very Blackfoot. I have none of that showed up in my 23andMe. Only did one side. I don't know. But I know the heritage is there. So people letting go of ego can be super uncomfortable, things you thought you knew. But you didn't fail. It's not a bad thing. Be okay with it. And that's what I think I do different is I'm okay with it. I don't have an ego here other than, I just need to pay my bills. That's it. I don't ever want to come off as cocky, because that's when the rug gets pulled out from under you. I'm just as curious as everybody else. I just feel like I can articulate, or translate or be a center point to get a message out there to people that maybe this group wouldn't normally listen to this group, but they'll come together in my shop for some cool event that we're doing, or just to hang out because we're all cool.
Going back to something you said earlier, I just want to give everybody permission. When I die, whenever that is, you have my permission to contact me with some John Williams music. Also, peanut butter cups. Just say, hey, dude, here's some peanut butter cups. Is John Williams
the Star Wars,
Jurassic Park, E.T.? Yep.
I shout out to my significant other, Scott, for that. He'd be so proud if he knew that I knew that.
Yay!
Now he's got to hear this. Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
There's lots of new ones that I'm so not hip to know anymore, but
yeah, well,
yeah.
I run a paranormal business and I don't even watch the shows. I just don't have time. So I am a pop culture vacuum right now. I have no idea what's going on in the world. I can tell you more about what happened with dead people or what's going on in the past than I can my present at the moment.
So for those people out there who may be interested in taking a tour from Haunted STL Tours, what do you want them to know?
I would say this is a pretty good time of year to get in on my weekend tours. I'm a one-woman operation as far as tour guides go, because there is a quality assurance thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't do large tours. I do have a shuttle van that I will drive around, but it's comfortable. It's not a party bus. Well, it can be a party bus, but it's quite comfortable. It's unmarked. So, we're not attracting major attention. We're not the Ghostbusters, blasting through the cemetery. But I would say, this is a great time of year to come on a tour. If you want to understand what all this non-scripted funny business is about, just come and take the tour. I am not opposed to working outside of the normal tour hours too. If I've got the time, let's go. This is what's fun for me. So I can build a tour around whatever you're into. Just tell me your entry level curiosity and we'll go from there. But that's the big thing. Just, support us. We're local and we're small, and it is hard to make a legitimate operation run on this kind of thing, but a lot of word of mouth helps. So yeah, come take tours and stop by the shop and say hi.
And it's hauntedSTLtours.com.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any others, like your podcast, American Spirits Podcast, right? What's the best way for people to get to there? And I can obviously link it in the show notes and people can visit that and click on it.
So yeah, brand new. It's a work in progress. And I know people say that when they're like, oh, don't judge. No, it's not like that. It's actually really cool. But we just did our third today, and every day has been something different, and it's super cool. But yeah, it's the Radio Free Almond app is where they can listen to that podcast. We do live stream it from Jamie Allman's Radio Free Almond page. And we will be archiving and uploading those videos to both the American Spirits fan page and the Haunted STL Facebook page as well.
So as of now, there isn't like an archive. So they have to catch it live now.
That's how new this is.
Wow.
I mean, that's why I was like, I need to take your middle school class on podcasting. No idea. I just know how to talk about what we're doing. This is my topic, but yeah, it's not scripted. I don't know.
First of all, just know that you have given us a gift today of your knowledge and your passion, and we could go on for like 2 hours, and I totally just resonate with you. And I would love for you to be my word sometime. Like if someone asks me my opinion, I'm like, oh, I can't explain it. Here, I give you Lacey. She can explain it.
I will do my best. I will do my best. Thank you. Honored.
Do you have any like closing thoughts or anything else that you haven't been able to say and want to say before we peace out?
Be kind to newbies in the field. Don't get cocky. Don't provoke spirits. That's not very nice. And just try to be nice. Don't be poopy, right? Those are my closing thoughts. I think if you can sleep with a good conscience that anything you're doing in this realm is on the up and up, I think you're okay. And support local business and come and take a tour. And thank you for this. This is fun. This is how this should go. It should just be fun and relaxed and grassroots and not, we don't need special effects to talk about this stuff.
You rock.
You rock.
Now cue the special effect. No, I'm just kidding. Right.
This would be great sensationalism right now to like have the light show in your parlor.
So here's an update from Lacey Reinhardt. Since our interview, she has switched podcast studios, and there will be a new and improved American Spirits podcast on June 1st. So I actually recommend getting connected to Lacey's American Spirits Facebook page, which I'll link to in the show notes. And when the time comes, you'll be able to get all the details there. Lacey is a voice who I think needs to be heard. And as you've just heard, I think that she's proven that she knows what she's doing. Also, she wants you to know that the Spirits of St. Louis tours are now in full swing every Saturday and Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. Thank you, Lacey Reinhardt. Thank you to the following super Paranerds who support the show at patreon.com/Big Seance. Genesis, Diana Lloyd, Natalie, Sonia B, Kim Robb, Jim Budd, Josiah Lorenzo, Susan Davey, Paula Mitchell, and Amy Park Gedicke. My supporters at the Parlor guest level, who can be found at bigseance.com/Parlor guests, are Linda of shimmeringmoons.com, Denise Sia of Mystic Moms Paranormal, Joni Kuntz, Sylvie, Jeffrey Peck, Dina of Dina DeCastro Astrology, Peggy Hagen, Sharon Bowles, Marion Hover Clairvoyant, Bruce Williams, Christopher Kohler, Lena and John of Carbon Lilies, Anna Frias, Norman and Linda Keller, and Karen Prine. That sound you just heard was the above and beyond. There's not even a category for your level of support fireworks display, because I have an awesome listener named Jackie Pacheco who supports the show at the $10 level. Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Paranerds.
For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseance.com.
You can find and subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and just about anywhere podcasts are found.
Do you have any comments or feedback? Go to bigseance.com/feedback to learn how to get your voice in a future show. Or you can call my feedback line, 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. Interested in learning how to promote and share the podcast? Go to bigseance.com/share. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.